here's a good question for you, and a big challenge in the industry, one of the toughest things. So how can channel leaders and learning teams better collaborate to ensure partner education directly impacts sales and drives business results? Don, I
Yeah,
think you can hit this one.
yeah, I'm gonna hit this one for sure. Um, Go back to employee learning. If you're a learning and development organization, you're employee learning, that's your job. You're just expected to get that compliance training out. You're expected to really do the minimum from a risk and a cost avoidance standpoint. And that's, that's the particular challenge. But when you're working with channel and partner organizations, you just can't put the content out there. There's separate motivations. So learning and professional development professionals are thinking about course completion, engagement, efficacy of the content. But channel leaders are thinking about sales, getting rid of bad partners, finding new good partners, making everybody sell more to grow that. And so those two things sometimes are at odds. They don't have to be, but they can be at odds. So how do you bridge that gap? Well, you have to bridge that gap. The learning and development professionals need to go and meet with the channel leaders, and not just once, but throughout all time, to understand what their goals are, what their challenges are, what in particular they're measuring at any given time. So any given channel organization is worried about finding new partners. They're worried about onboarding those partners. They're worried about supporting those partners over time. And as we talked about turning them into advocates. But generally, they're not worried about all four of those at the same time or not equally. And so, training and development professionals need to partner with the channel leaders, understand what's working and what's not in terms of their business, and really tie the training in all the ways that we talked about, in the quality of the content, the length of the content, but to tie it directly to helping that sales leader achieve their goals that they need for their organization. And so, if everybody's measuring the same thing and is trying to impact the same business metrics, then that's when an organization really starts to sing. That's when learning and development is doing their job, and it's really facilitating the growth of these partners over time. So if you want to partner with somebody, you got to find out what's important to them and align your training and development strategy with that. And in the corporate world in 2024, and going forward, it's not just customers and partners. It's all, or not just channel partners, but it's also your customers, and it's also your customer facing salespeople and customer support inside your organization. All of those different groups are all part of the extended ecosystem of governance that you should be bringing in and partnering with at all times, because all of those different groups can be impacted from the same learning management system and often the same content or core of content throughout those different organizations. So it's no longer sufficient just to be worried about compliance and doing your employee training. Learning and development professionals, strategic ones and strategic organizations, form that governance network of their channel partners, their service partners, their customer service, their sales, their customers in general, and think about that all holistically. And when you do, then training isn't a cost. It's now something that moves the business needle, is now a revenue generator, and improves business processes, and really makes the difference in the organization, a competitive difference in comparison to the competition. And so that's the goal now. It's no longer compliance. The goal is now moving the business needle. That's my
Yeah.
theory anyway.
We work with companies that on average generate 60 to 75, 80% of the revenue through a channel partner organization. They are reliant on their survival through channel partners. So training and educating them on how to sell that isn't just a checkbox on a to-do list. It is an absolute necessity to make sure they are better at selling, because if they don't sell well, then the entire company slumps. So it's critical to be able to measure that success. You can't just throw some stuff at them and say, okay, they did this, we're covered. You have to be able to measure the difference, to say, okay, these are our non-certified partners, these are our certified partners. To your point earlier, you should know, hey, if you take this course, you're on average, your sales should increase by 3.7% over the year, right? You should understand the exact impact of what that training is on the sales, and you should use that to sell your partners on doing the training. I mean, right there on the course, it say, if you take this course, You should see a 3.7% increase in your yearly sales on this product, right? And that number should change as the number changes. So you're always tying revenue into training, right? It's a real-time feedback loop. And if the number isn't as high as you want, if it's only a 0.5% or 1%, then you need to do something about your training. You need to improve the quality of it. Don't just assume because you get some SMEs to throw together a bunch of facts, put them into a PowerPoint and add some voiceover, that's quality training that's going to get your salespeople to a higher goal. You should be trying, that's one of the big difference between an HR LMS and a partner LMS, right? An HR LMS will get you from the mailroom to the boardroom in 15 years. A partner LMS should get your partner organization from 2 million to 5 million sales in 3 years, right? You should be thinking in terms of groups. How do I move this group? How do I, to your point earlier, Jeff, about the 80-20 rule, how do I get more of my 80 into the 20 side, right? How do I shift them over there? And you do that by measuring and analyzing and always trying to improve the quality of your content.
Absolutely. Yeah. And both of what you're saying is kind of resonating with me from recent conversations I've had where the LMS, I'm going to say administrator, is typically coming from, like, if you look at the L&D side, they're continually going to justify the costs associated with offering training. And I think that's where the L&D mindset around like any type of training, it's a cost center. Whereas what we're talking about is training your external audiences should be considered a revenue generator from the points that you've both made. But what I found interesting is the ownership of the training within these organizations has seemingly shifted in the last year or so. The conversations I'm having with these companies that are looking to train their external partners is where, in fact, it may have actually been owned by the L&D or the HR teams, but they were not getting the results and the metrics were not moving in the right direction. And so those organizations removed the L&D HR lens and that team and assigned the marketing team to own that partner training. And it's fascinating to see the mindset, the talking points, the KPIs, all of the metrics that then shift. The conversation completely changes when the ownership of the training moves into a more marketing and revenue focused, I'm going to say strategy. And it's just the alignment that you get then with the senior executive gets, I'm going to say, way more efficient and way more structurally aligned in terms of a business strategy. And I just get super excited when I meet with a team that I know is owned by marketing because I know what they care about. And ultimately, they just care about measurable metrics, as John's mentioned, that will drive the needle. And that's where we see the best projects happen. And so if anyone's looking at like, hey, how do I get buy-in from senior leadership? Well, it's through that conversation. Try and get the HR, L&D learning folks as far away from the project as you can and move it into your marketing realm. And then not only that, they bring a bigger budget. So they're gonna make a way better go of it because of that background that they have.
Yeah, they definitely come up with more revenue to spend when they know that spend is going to turn around into more revenue back into the company.
Absolutely.
Sure. I always tell L&D professionals, it's time, it's well past time to embrace channel and partner and customer learning and do it now. Because guess what? If you don't, it's going to happen anyway. It's just going to happen around you. And so,
and they're going to have a bigger budget too. So,
yeah. So the next thing you know, you'll be out in the cold if you're not leading the discussion. The channel partner team is just going to take it on their own, or give it to marketing to do it, or give it to the customer experience team to do it, and bring in some instructional designers. That's great. That works really well. But what you don't get is any of that sharing across the organization. So you lose some of the horsepower on the bigger topic where enterprise training or enterprise learning is channel and partner, but it's also other groups. And so there's certainly advantages to thinking about it all strategically and holistically rather than running into silos. But silos are mandatory when you can't get the leadership out of L&D.
But it makes more sense there because if you think about it, the marketing department's goal is to increase sales through their jobs and what they do. So why wouldn't channel training have the exact same goal? If it
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
increasing sales, then you have a problem and you need to make a change.
100%. Yeah. And I keep coming back to, what does the senior leadership care about? Like, they really don't care about learning metrics. I just don't think they do. I really believe that they care about business metrics.
Yeah.
I think they're sitting around saying, what was our logins yesterday in the LMS?
Yeah. Instead of what was our sales increase over the last
Yes,
quarter.
yes.
Couldn't
How many
agree
5
more.
stars do we get?
Yeah.